This is Caps PA announcer Wes Johnson, and you're listening to Board the Pod!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new edition of What the Puck. It is a Washington Capitals podcast, which means it's a podcast about your 2018 Stanley Cup champions. Thank you all for listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Player.fm, Overcast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. Well, remember those 2018 Stanley Cup finals? Remember those days? Man, that was fun. Some good times. I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days, you know, when you're in the good old days. I just totally butchered that line from The Office. I'm sorry.
I was like, what are you quoting right now?
But here we are. It is 2023. The Caps have merely 10 games left in this season, and the chances of them making the playoffs are slim to none. Let's just say no chances whatsoever. But joining me as always to talk all about it, my buddy Dan. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Feeling all right. The Caps, it's the springtime, baby. It's almost time for this season to wrap up. The Capitals are 10 games away from the end. What are you thinking right now? I mean, I hate to say it, but like, are we already talking about draft picks and off-season moves and stuff like that? I mean, I know 10 games is 10 games. It's going to be 10 games of hockey to watch on TV, but I don't know. I feel like I'm more excited for the Frozen Four tournament than I am for these Caps games coming up.
I was going to say, I'm usually talking about the off-season in like
November.
Mid-October. Yeah. Let's say mid-October. Like, I'm always talking about the off-season because I don't know, I find player movements and signings and trades just interesting and fascinating stuff. But no, I mean, I think to an extent that conversation has to happen. I'm sure it's already happened in the Caps front office in terms of what their choices are going to be for this summer. And I think we all know what they're going to be in terms of player moves. I think to an extent there's some interesting choices they're going to have to make. I think a lot of the hard choices they already made at the deadline in terms of moving out a lot of the guys who were scheduled to be unrestricted free agents. They re-signed a lot of guys, one of them actually being shortly after we recorded, every time, right after we record.
I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, right? Somehow tomorrow they'll make another trade, even though they're not allowed to. Caps re-signed Trevor Van Riemsdyk. So they got the defenseman 3 years, $9 million deal. Comes out to a cap hit of $3 million because that's how math works. And so it makes sense. I mean, their top 6 defensemen are more or less set for next season in terms of who's playing with whom. That's obviously not set, and that can change between now and the end of the regular season, before the summer and then next season. But there's a lot of questions this team has, like I was saying, less than before, but then there's some interesting choices they have to make. And I think, the conversations, at least it's not Kettler anymore. What's it called again?
MedStar Capitals
MedStar,
Iceplex.
thank you. MedStar Capitals Iceplex. At the practice rink, there are choices that are going to have to be made in terms of some of the players that didn't work out this year, injuries, and how this team's going to look next season. I mean, I think even McClellan came out and said they're looking for a top 6 winger next year. So we know that's going to be a focus for them in this offseason. I think that's why they went out and acquired a lot of those draft picks, is because that's capital that you can use to package with the player or not package with the player to be able to go out and acquire that top 6 winger that you're looking for. There's choices to be made about Anthony Mantha. He's still got a year left on his contract in terms of if you think you're going to keep him around or not. I was reading on the Athletic Tarek El-Bashir's mailbag. People are asking questions about Mantha and how it sounds like the coaches are a little bit happier with him than the front office might be. But if the coaching staff is not coming back next year, then that may be irrelevant. So my guess is that Mantha is on his way out at some point this summer. You got to make a decision about Connor Sheary and Craig Smith. My guess is Craig Smith is going to go to unrestricted free agency. There we go. And sign somewhere else. I wouldn't be surprised to see Connor Sheary re-signed, but I also feel like I have to imagine there's going to be a new coaching staff in place before free agency. And so some of these decisions might be made with that new coaching staff and head coach in terms of who they might be able to bring in and what the decisions will be made regarding Connor Sheary. And then I think there's going to have to be a conversation about Yevgeny Kuznetsov and the disappointment that his season has been, especially defensively. He's not living up to his contract. He's not living up to the expectations. He's not living up to what the Caps need to be a productive team that can make a run in the playoffs and try and win another cup. And if he's not prepared to do that or incapable of doing it, then the Caps need to find a way to potentially move on from him and bring in someone who can provide them what they need. But looking at the team now versus what, 4 weeks ago, the questions are very different. Some of them are the same, but there's a lot of different questions. Some of them, like I said, are just gone because you don't have to worry about what are you going to do with Dmitry Orlov? What are you going to do with, what's his name, Gustafsson? What are you going to do with this guy? And that, Hathaway. Like, we know what they're going to be doing. And the other thing I really want to see in these next few weeks as the Cap season kind of wraps up, like, yes, there's a chance they're going to make the playoffs, but I think there's a better chance of them getting Connor Bedard than it is them making the playoffs. And I want to see more of these young guys play. I mean, if Carlson can make his way back, I know we'll talk about him in a minute. If Jensen's playing again, I don't want to see Matt Irwin. It's nothing personal, but you're 35, dude. Like, I don't want to see you in the lineup. I want Alexiev playing every night. I don't want to necessarily call up guys from Hershey. Like, we don't have to call up Iorio and have him playing or Lucas Johnson. But I don't want Alexiev up in the press box. I want the young guys playing. And, it was another thing in Tarek El-Bashir's Athletic. Sorry, I'm going on a rant here or rambling. But, like, Tarek was talking about how fans were, I guess someone wrote in and was complaining about how, like, the young guys aren't getting minutes. And, like, I get it from a coaching perspective. Like, this is a win-now league. And this was a win-now team. And that's why, the coaching staff to an extent went with the veteran players. But once they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, I don't want to see guys that aren't going to be part of the future. I want Alexiev in the lineup getting good minutes every night. I want to see Protas playing every game. Like, these are guys that need to be playing because they're going to be here next season. And if that means that Craig Smith's sitting up in the press box, like, sorry, dude, but you're likely not going to be here next season. You'll be 34 at the start of next season, and this team needs to get younger. I don't want that to impact Hershey and what they're trying to do and getting those guys good minutes and hopefully a nice run in the Calder Cup playoffs. But I want Alexi Protas playing. I want Milano getting more minutes. I want Strome getting more minutes. And that's not taking away from Ovechkin's chance to score goals by any means. So that's what I think this team needs to see, and that's where our conversation is going to start. Both you and I and general Caps fans, conversation is going to start going because this season was not even remotely what it should have been. They're not even a mid, like as we say in European football, they're not even a mid-table side. They're not even mid-standings. They're worse than that.
Yeah, it is really unfortunate, and this season's definitely not what we thought it was going to be. I said this before in a past show. It was, all right, we got to fix the goaltending. We got to fix the goaltending. And they brought in 2 goaltenders, which I've been, pretty impressed with. They've done the job. But still major issues. The defense, still a major issue. Everybody was talking about, when we were on the Locked On Capitals podcast back in November, it was, what do we do about John Carlson? We got to get John Carlson out of here. And you see what happens. He gets injured. He's out. And this defense completely and totally falls apart. Without him out there, it's absolutely horrendous. Some of the defense out there. I mean, wasn't it like the last, not counting the Columbus game, but the last 2 or 3 games in a row, first shot on goal, and the opposing team got a goal? Like, I mean, that shouldn't be happening at all. I'm intrigued though. You brought up Yevgeny Kuznetsov. I feel like that's the conversation we had 2 years ago. After the 2021 season and how that was a disappointment, it was, we got to let Kuzi go. It's time. Let's move on. We're done with him. And he looked okay last year, but now it feels like we're right back to where we started.
I mean, he's getting his points, right? He's third on the team in points right now. He's got 51 in 71 games. The problem with that is that you have to compare that, because this is a league that has a salary cap. You have to compare that to what he's earning. And those don't line up. When you're at, what is he at, $7.8 million a season, which in like every other sport is nothing. But when you're at $7.8 million a season, you're the 3rd highest cap hit on this team. You need to be producing consistently, and he's just not. Like, he's just not producing consistently. You need to be close to a point per game player. And at the moment, I haven't done the math, but I don't know exactly what it is because I don't, just didn't do it, forgot. He's not he's not where he should be. He's not where this team needs him to be. I mean, he's right now in the same amount of games played. Dylan Strome has 3 less assists but 5 more goals. But Strome's not playing on the top line every single night. I mean, Kuznetsov's not as every single night, but he's getting plenty of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
He should be producing. And defensively, he's a liability. And for a team that wants to make a run, you need everybody contributing in all facets, all aspects of the game, and he's not. The question is going to be, with 2 more years at $7.8 million, who are you sending him to, and what do you think you're going to get back? Are you going to get a first-line center? I think it's safe to say that Nicholas Backstrom is not a first-line center anymore.
That's
with
sad.
The injuries, with his age, he's still a very good center. Don't get me wrong. And it could be people screaming right now, like, what the F are you talking about? Like, he is actually quite good. Right now, where's Backstrom? He's got 15 points in 29 games. What was that next season? Could he be back to being a first-line center? Do you want him to be a second-line center and your first line is someone else who can step up a little bit more? Maybe it is, Dylan Strome. That is next season's problem. But the question I have right now is Kuznetsov worth the money that they're spending on him? And that sounds harsh to say, but that's a reality in sports, especially a sport with a salary cap. You have to produce at the level of which you're making, right? He was offered that much money. That's not his fault. But when you accept it, you take on the responsibility of having to live up to that money, right? You can't just take that money. I mean, you can, and you're not a very nice person. You can take that money and then just be not good. But that impacts the team. He's right now taking up 9.5% of the team's caps, which is, doesn't sound like a ton, but when you have, 23 guys, at least 20 guys you have to have cap space for, that becomes a problem. So if I'm the Capitals, I'm listening and maybe even making some phone calls and being like, hey, we're interested in so-and-so. Would you be interested in taking Kuznetsov? He's, if anything, he might be motivated to be like, you're going to trade me? And maybe he tears it up for his new team. But if I'm the Caps, I'm looking, do I need a new first line, second line center?
You brought up the veterans and the young guys and all that kind of stuff too. And while I do agree with you, I do think we do need to see Alexiev and Protas on the ice as much as possible. I think you do have a lot of veterans on this team that don't want to give up their spot. And I know Matt Irwin, he was a guy that we were making fun of last year because he sat for so long and he kind of knew his job was to be there just in case. But he has played a whole lot this season. And I don't even think he was expecting it. But as an older guy, he's not just going to give up his spot for the young rookie. If they still want to win. Veterans still want to win. They might not be as fast or be able to heal as quickly as the young guys, but they still want to win. If you listen to Caps This Morning, which we do have to say, welcome back to John Walton, to the radio lineup, and to the podcast, his Caps This Morning podcast. He took some time off after the death of his brother and the birth of his child. So congratulations to him on the birth of his kid. And it's I'm happy he took as much time as he needed to be away from us. But it's great to have him back. But he was talking to Tarek about this and how, yeah, it is a win now league or whatever, but these veterans, they're not giving up their spot. They want to be in the lineup. So I doubt we see a lot of younger talent in these last couple games, even though these last 10 games kind of mean nothing. But I agree with you. I would like to see some of this younger talent get a chance to play in the NHL. I think it would be good for them. I mean, just looking at it, we've got the Penguins coming up on the 25th, this Saturday. We got the Pittsburgh Penguins. We're in Pittsburgh. That's a great chance for some young talent to kind of feel what that rivalry is really about, to see what it's all about. Maybe a little motivation for next year of wanting to be in the lineup next year in the NHL so you can experience that again. You've got the Islanders and the Tampa Bay Lightning next week. Those are two teams that you could really let some young guys loose to see what they're going to do. I mean, what is there to lose at this point? So I want to see
games.
Yeah, I want to see Alexiev. Alexiev has not done much, but I think with more time on the ice,
I like what I've seen from him. I want to see more minutes. I think he's top 6 next year.
No way.
Alexiev?
Yeah.
On the defense, he's definitely in the top 6 guys playing. I mean, he's got to have a bad camp, I think, to lose it. I think next year it's and not in this order necessarily like a lineup, but it's Carlson, Favari, Jensen, Sandin, who I love that kid. I don't know why Toronto gave him up. Van Riemsdyk and Alexiev.
I think Alexiev is probably splitting his time between Hershey and the Caps next year, just because I feel like he is going to be the low man on the totem pole. I think that he's kind of shown that he can be at the NHL, but he might not be getting consistent minutes, kind of like we saw with Connor McMichael this year. So I can see him splitting time between Hershey and Washington next year, but we'll see.
I like him. I like what I've seen.
I do too, but I don't know if he's ready.
Well, here's the thing. So I've never been great at this part in terms of I've been okay at it. Trying to figure out how many games before they're mathematically eliminated or mathematically made the playoffs or whatever the case may be. So they are 5 points, although they played one more game than Florida, behind the Panthers for the second wild card spot, which that'd be nice for them to make the playoffs, but then they play Boston. They're going to get hammered.
Yeah, what's the point? What's the point of going right now?
Super awkward to go up against Orlov and Hathaway in the playoffs. Oh, that'd be fun. What if they actually did that and then knocked out Boston? That'd be a good story to write. I'm sure the reporters would be like, ooh, I can write a story about that. I would imagine it's 5 points. So, I mean, it could be a good number of games where they can still fight for a playoff spot, but I think once they're mathematically eliminated,
right,
that's when the young guys need to play and get minutes, right? And that might not be for the last, I mean, based on their playing, it'll be like tomorrow, but that could be, not for the last couple games of the regular season. Fine, then I want to see the young guys playing in the last couple games of the regular season. Like, I don't want to hear any of this nonsense about, we're playing to win. No, you're not. You weren't doing that earlier in the season when you had an opportunity to actually make the playoffs. Don't give me like it's important to win now. No, you suck. That's the problem. You're not a good team this season, and you need to start focusing on next year. But I get it that you might want to wait until, after until you've been mathematically eliminated, because at that point you're just playing out the rest of your games. But make something out of the rest of your games.
I am shocked that the Caps lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets, the worst team in the league.
God, that was so bad.
When you score 6 goals and that's still not enough to get you that win, something's definitely wrong, especially on a night where there was so much pomp and circumstance before the game. You're honoring your captain, Alexander Ovechkin, for his 802 goals, which happened in December, but it's, mid to late March, and you're celebrating now, which was weird to me. But all of that's going on. The Ovechkins are watching from a booth. You're all wearing number 8 jerseys during warm-ups, and to come out and lose an OT, I don't know. I don't know. Just something.
Lose after dominating the possession in overtime. That was even more frustrating. Like, I saw them take it at the ice, and I was like, uh-oh. And then was that Kuznetsov on D, who, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he played that really poorly.
I don't know if it was him or not, to be honest.
That whole, they just kept playing around with the puck, and I got it. They were looking for a good opportunity, and you wouldn't just force it. But to an extent, Columbus could kind of just, sit back and just keep cycling with you. They didn't really make them move. That's stupid. Of course they made them move. They didn't, force them into tough spots and have to make decisions, and Columbus just waited until an opportunity presented itself for them, and then they took advantage of the opportunity versus the Caps just, while they dominate possession, they didn't really make much of it. I mean, they had 1 or 2 good shots that just didn't go in, but it should have never gone to overtime.
No.
That game perfectly captured the Caps season in that they're just not very good. All you have to do is get in the playoffs and anything can happen, and I get it. That's why they're fighting to make the playoffs. But this is a team right now that I'm pretty confident I know what's going to happen in the playoffs, and they're going to get swept.
Yeah. Which I was flipping in between the Columbus game and the baseball, what's that thing called? The World Baseball Classic?
Oh, the World,
Cup?
Something like that.
Is it a World Cup of I don't know what it's called, but it's it's the baseball World Championship. I don't know what it is. I was flipping between those 2 games, and I was just thinking, I was like, I'm really invested in the Caps game, but man, hockey needs a World Cup type of tournament. I know the World Championship is in May, and it's usually not featuring NHLers or whatever, but that U.S. versus Japan game, the baseball game last night, really, people were invested. People were into it. The crowds were going nuts. Like, hockey is missing the boat on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know hockey players coming out about it right now because they're not happy with the fact that they haven't really gotten to play in some of this stuff. It just there's something about. I mean, look at the World Cup, how exciting it is, and I know you're not a soccer fan, but it's still exciting to see.
Wait, hold on, hold that thought. What are your thoughts on the Wales team?
Why are you asking me? I'm confused as to where we're going with this.
Do you like that team? Is that a good team? So the reason I bring this up is that a listener of my other podcast, The Call, he apparently is not from England. He is from Wales, and he was in town. My buddy Josh had dinner with him, and he gave Josh and I Wales jerseys, like official.
Oh, really?
Official jerseys, which I have not seen it yet. But like,
That's
I want to
cool.
know, is that like a good team? Because like, I feel like I need to support that team now.
So the Wales national team is okay. They were at the World Cup. They were up against the U.S. Yeah, it was Iran, U.S., England, Wales, I believe. And I think Wales finished in 4th, if I remember correctly. I mean, they're okay. It's cool to have. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Like, if I had the opportunity to get one, I'd have one.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Good to know. I was just curious.
That's because I'm a huge fan of Aaron Ramsey. Somehow this is a hockey podcast.
This is what happens when the Caps suck.
Yeah, true. We don't really have anything to talk about. Yeah, maybe we need to get Ryan on here. He and I can talk about European football. We both are fans of not only the Capitals, but I believe Borussia Dortmund over in Germany. Or is he a Bayern fan? I can't remember. Anyways, going back to the Caps and how they suck.
Yeah, well, one thing that doesn't suck, I have to bring this up.
Oh, I forgot about one guy before, though. Sorry to cut you off. I remember one other question we have to talk about. I completely forgot. Or the Caps have to talk about is what to do with Connor Brown. And according to Tarek El-Bashir, it sounds like there's some interest on the Caps, maybe more than some, to sign him for next season because he was essentially signed to but like take the spot of Tom Wilson until Wilson came back, and then his knee exploded. He tore his ACL 4 games into the season. But I think that's definitely, if you can get him, and we talked about this before, if you can get him for the right money, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see him play barely anything. So, I mean, what's the harm in trying it again? I mean, why not? Just do it. But one thing we got to talk about that does not suck, that is actually pretty cool, the cherry blossom jerseys the Capitals will be wearing, the warm-up sweaters, those are nice, man. Those look really, really cool. I like that.
I saw it earlier. I got to bring them back up. Those are actually those are nice. I don't know if they're not like the warm-up jerseys for the Stadium Series game. Nice in terms of like, I want those to be the regular jersey they wear.
Yeah.
Where did they go?
Apparently they're also selling merch, but it looks like it has to be at MedStar or at Capital One. There's nothing on like a website available, but I want a shirt or something with this cherry blossom logo for the Capitals. I love it. It's
nice.
Awesome.
It's pretty nice. And seeing how things are going, I mean, the Nats, I think I'm probably wrong, but I feel like the Nats are one of, if not the first team to kind of start playing up the cherry blossoms.
Right.
Within a year or two, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Fanatics have something out. Can we talk about that? I know we're gonna do that down in around the NHL, but we might as well bring it up here.
Okay, let's do it.
And how it will play a role with the Caps. So the NHL announced this week. We knew that the deal with Adidas was ending. Internet of Adidas being the outfitter for the league's jerseys. It's like 10 years ago, more than that, the NHL partnered with Fanatics to basically be their online store. Fanatics will now be making all of the NHL's jerseys that you'll see players wearing on the ice. So I feel like people are not excited about it, and I understand and support that because I have stuff from Fanatics where the logo's like not in the middle of the t-shirt like it's supposed to be, and like things are kind of shoddy. So I can understand everyone's sort of skepticism regarding it. We still have another year of Adidas. It's going to be okay. We'll see what the future beholds. But I think it's going to be interesting in terms of like what that might mean for the future in terms of the Capitals. My understanding is, based again on Tarek El-Bashir's mailbag post, because someone asked about it, that the team is not looking to change their logo or jerseys anytime soon. They apparently are looking at doing something special. I think it's not next season, but the season after, the 2024-25 season, in honor of their their 50th anniversary, that they're looking at having something special then. My guess is it'll be some sort of patch. Or maybe they go with the old jerseys for a season. But when they change kit supply, going back to soccer talk, when you change your outfitter, maybe that could be something interesting for the Capitals. I know we're not getting any more reverse retros, Brandon. I know you're upset about that.
That's a bummer, and I'm shocked about that because around the league, it seems like most teams like their reverse retros more than they like their primaries. Not just Caps, but like look at the All-Star game. All of them were wearing the reverse retros. So I'm kind of surprised they're doing away with that. Maybe that's an Adidas thing, but I think that's a bummer because I love the Capitals black reverse retros from this year, and I'm very sad to see them go away.
I get it though to an extent because like you don't want it to become stale, kind of like these stadium series and outdoor games are to an extent, where you're doing it so much that they're like, enough, it's not fun anymore.
Right.
Like, you don't want it to become stale, and I'm very curious as to what they're going to do next because I was reading an article about this from Greg Wyshynski of ESPN, and he was talking about how the NHL has sort of is like pushing fanatics to be like, do your own thing, do something interesting, like come up with the next big reverse retro type thing. So I'm kind of excited to see what they can come up with. Now that I said that, it's probably going to be garbage.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will see what happens. I love these cherry blossom sweaters. I think they're a great look. I can't wait to see them in action. And I don't know. I think it's April 2nd is the game they'll be sporting them. So I definitely won't be able to afford one on the auctions, but who knows? I like it. I think it's really cool. It's nice because it's a DC thing. That's what people flock to the tidal basin to see. But anything else we should talk about here in Caps World?
Let's give you a couple things. I think a little credit needs to be given. I don't know. To you. The new, definitely considering how much work you put into this show. Rasmus Sandin, their new defenseman, he's the only player in Caps history to have 3 or more multi-point games in their first 4 games with the team. That note is via NBC Sports Washington. I really like the move. I was really skeptical at first when we were like, we gave up a player and a first-round pick we just got from Boston that I really wanted us to turn around to use on Jacob Chukrin.
Right.
We gave up all that for this dude I'd never even heard of until that day. And now I'm watching him play and I'll be like, ooh, well done. I like this kid. I mean, he's a top 4 defenseman for this team next season. He could be a top pairing defenseman for this team at some point in the future. But I like what they got. I like that they got him under team control for it's baseball terminology. I feel like they got him locked up for at least another year, and then he's a restricted free agent. He just turned 23. I mean, this team's defense is moving in the right direction. It's not a bunch of old guys now. You got an old dude, an older veteran guy with a younger guy. The oldest man right now is what do you have? Is Jensen older? Carlson at 33. Midway through next season, he becomes 34. Jensen turns 33 in September. Van Riemsdyk this summer will turn 32. But then you got guys who are 23 in Sandin. Alexiev's 23. Favari's 23. Like, you got a nice mixture of veteran players, which Favari basically is at this point, and Sandin to an extent, and young guys who are going to be on this team for hopefully a good number of years.
I was so scared when Sandin went down. What game was that? I texted you. Was it late last week or something like that? But he went down and couldn't put any weight on his leg. And I'm like, here we go. That's great. Great. Wonderful news. This guy we just spent all this money on, and he's hurt already. Lovely. But, it seems like he's going to be okay. Top line guy. I'm happy to see him on this team. What is his nickname? I've been calling him the Sandman, but I feel like if he doesn't pan out, people are just going to start calling him Sardines. Like, what do you think his...
I think so. I saw someone going back to Tarek El-Bashir. Someone asked him about if Enter Sandman by Metallica is going to be his goal song.
Great song.
And apparently he hasn't picked one yet, but he was like, if it's not, like, what are we doing here? Like, it's almost perfect. I have to imagine, something like that could work, but then I feel like you don't call him Sandman, but then, like, he's going to be falling asleep. I don't know. I imagine the player, something with an I, E, or a Y at the end, whether it be like Sandy or something like that, will be his nickname, I'm sure.
Okay.
I do enjoy seeing all these like little snippets of the players' warm-ups.
Yeah.
Like before they go out there, and they're all nuts.
They're a bunch of weirdos.
They are a bunch of weirdos with some of the stuff that they do. Other little bit of
I
news.
want to know how Ovi keeps it all, like a track of it all, because he's got one for everybody on the team.
I mean, I've seen videos of like teachers who have different handshakes or hugs or whatever for like each of their students, and people who can pull that. I could never do that. I never wouldn't be able to remember one of them, let alone. I remember I had one summer I was working, and it was another. It was a camper or a counselor who was like, "We need to have our own handshake," and I was like, "Okay, cool," and I could never remember it. Could not do it. I can't pull that off. So props to him for doing that. Well, yeah. Other bit of news. It looks like John Carlson's back at practice in a regular practice jersey. Good to see. It actually got revealed this past Saturday. He suffered a fractured skull
Oof.
and a partially severed temporal artery after he took that slap shot to the side of his head. That is so frightening.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap. He said, my expectation to play is based off of putting myself in no harm right now versus in a year, next September, 2 Septembers from now, 5 Septembers from now. I'm not coming back if there's a risk of anything, whether that is now or in 5 years. That's when I'll be back. I think the major hurdles are behind me, certainly, and my expectation would be to play soon. So it sounds like he's coming back, but if there's an opportunity for him to, die, he's probably not going to play anymore, and I applaud him for that. Because there are things more important than hockey. Would that impact the team negatively? Yeah, he's a really good player. Does it free up a whole lot of cap space to maybe go sign someone in the offseason or trade for them? Also, yes. So it's not, you don't want to see a player's career end by injury, especially not when you get your head literally broken. So I hope he's okay. If this means that he's not playing for the rest of this regular season, I don't think it's that big a deal because they suck. So it's not the worst thing for him to just wait until next September to play again. Let everything fully heal. Let him get plenty of rest. Maybe they can design a new helmet that protects you from getting hit in the freaking head with a puck, and we'll go from there.
Now, here's my question. There was talk of him playing against Columbus. Now there's talk of him playing against Chicago. So the return is imminent. Like, there is potential. But I was going to save this for around the NHL and beyond, but I'll just bring it up here. With the Caps not making the playoffs, they are going to be done early to mid-April. That means that for the first time in a very, very long time, a lot of players will be available for the IIHF World Championship.
No.
If John Carlson's ready to go, could he go play for Team USA?
Could he? Yes. Should he? No.
Now, do you think anyone else from this Caps team will go over and play in the World Championship? Obviously, Ovechkin can't because he would be representing Russia, and they're not allowed to play because they're a bunch of jerks. But could we potentially see TJ Oshie? Could we see Tom Wilson? That's what I was kind of intrigued with. Tom Wilson and Nick Backstrom have really only been playing since January, so they should be somewhat healthy, and I don't think we've ever seen Tom Wilson on that kind of stage play before. So I'm kind of intrigued if these guys that are somewhat fresh, would they go over and play in the World Championship? What do you think?
No, not Carlson. I mean, dude, your head got broken. Like, take a break. You're more than. This team is just with injuries this season. Like, it's not even things where like the medical staff is not doing something they should be doing. Like they're pulling hamstrings and things. Like, dude got hit in the head with a puck and broke his head. Like, take a break, man. Backstrom, if he's feeling all right, maybe. Wilson, yeah, he probably could go over there and play and get some more hockey under his belt. No more injuries. Let's stop it. If you can go play in Hershey, go play in Hershey. I want to see them make a nice long run in the playoffs down there or up there because it's technically north of both of us. True. But otherwise, everyone else, like, just don't get hurt. No, thank you.
I bet you I'd like to see what Tom Wilson can do for Team Canada, but I'm thinking maybe like Martin Fehervary could go represent his country over in the World Championship. I don't know. I think we might see some Caps we've never seen before on an international stage in May, and it'll be fun to see because we'll be 2 months out of hockey at that point. So I don't know. We'll see. Anything else going on in Caps world?
No, I think that's it, man.
All right, that's it for what's going on in Caps world. Now let's go down on the farm. All right, everybody, here we go. We're going down on the farm. We are talking Hershey Bears and South Carolina Stingrays and some collegiate news as well. Coach Dan, what's going on down on the farm?
Let's start in Hershey, where the Bears went 3-2 with 2 wins over Lehigh Valley and 1 against Rochester. The Bears are currently second in the Atlantic Division with 81 points, 3 back of first place Providence, though the Baby Bruins have played 1 more game than the Bears. They'll be back at it on Friday in Rochester before heading to Syracuse on Saturday. They then come home to the Giant Center to face Lehigh Valley on Sunday. Down in South Carolina, the Stingrays went 4-2 with wins over Florida, 2 of them over Jacksonville, and 1 against Savannah. They're currently first in the South Division with 77 points, 1 up on second place, which is currently a tie between Jacksonville and Florida. That sounds weird because Jacksonville's in Florida, but, sports.
Yep.
They'll be back at it this weekend hosting Maine at the North Charleston Coliseum on both Saturday and Sunday.
Maine, do they always face Maine? I feel like you've never brought up Maine before.
I don't know. No, I feel like they're a new team this season. I don't remember.
I
mentioned
honestly,
them once before.
I never remember you saying Maine ever. I mean, we hear like the Everblades and all those other kind of teams, but
they play Florida and Jack. I think it's because ECHL they probably don't have as much money. Yeah, I think part of it is just due to the travel costs getting from South Carolina, and they're not flying. So I would imagine. So getting from South Carolina to Maine just sounds not fun on a bus. So I imagine, that's why you play a lot of those like regional games.
Yeah, I'm like, Maine, they're hosting Maine? When have they ever
Maine,
done that?
The Maine Mariners, I was right. They do have pretty. It's an M and then a Triton.
Me. It looks like me. Their logo looks like me.
It does actually. Now that you said that, it does kind of look like me. In other Stingrays news, goalie Tyler Wall was named the ECHL goaltender of the week after posting a 3-0-0 record, a shutout against Savannah, and a 1.67 goals against average. So congratulations to him.
Nice.
In collegiate news, we have a few Caps prospects playing in this year's Frozen Four tournament. Via @Caps Prospects on Twitter, the Caps prospects in the Frozen Four, we got Minnesota defenseman Ryan Chesley, Harvard goalie Mitchell Gibson, and Quinnipiac goaltender Chase Clark. We'll be able to talk more about the Frozen Four later in the show. Brandon, that's what's going on down on the farm. Now let's go around the NHL and beyond.
All right, everybody, here we go. We're going around the NHL and beyond. Yes, the Caps not doing well, but so is everybody else is doing pretty well around the NHL and beyond. So let's talk about it. It's more entertaining than talking about how bad the Caps are right now. So, Coach Dan, catch us up. What's going on around the NHL and beyond?
Well, let's start. There's like not much going on around the NHL anymore because the trade deadline's passed. And everyone's like, well, we're stuck with our roster. And if we're not good, well, that's unfortunate. But we can start in Montreal, where Nick Suzuki was fined $2,500 for cross-checking Florida's Anton Lundell. And St. Louis's Jordan Binnington was suspended for 2 games for roughing and unsportsmanlike conduct against Minnesota's Ryan Hartman. Did you see the video of this play?
Yeah.
Like, Binnington has got a temper.
Yeah.
Like, I get it when you're a goalie and some dude comes up and hits you and or clips you or whatever, and you're mad and you take a swing at him. Like, I get it. Like, when I played roller hockey in the past, or like when I play soccer, if someone messes with the goalie, I get mad because usually they're almost in a defenseless position because they're focused on stopping the puck. Also, goalies are got crap all over them, so it's hard to move. But you think he was extra mad because not only did the dude clip him, but that he also scored, and he was like, "Screw this, I'm gonna go punch him in the face."
Yeah, I'm sure that didn't help.
And then Fleury tried to come down and fight him, and then the refs wouldn't let him do it. But Binnington, calm down, man. Like, you got scored on. Okay, stop the next one. Settle down. Anyways, let's move on. The women's NCAA Frozen Four tournament is over, and congratulations to the Wisconsin Badgers who defeated defending national champion Ohio State. I'm not calling them the Ohio State. They're too arrogant. They beat them 1-0 for the 2023 Women's Hockey Championship. The 2023 NCAA Men's Hockey Tournament leading to their Frozen Four is now set. The top 4 seeds are Minnesota, Michigan, defending champions Denver, and Quinnipiac. They just keep being good because they want me to try and keep mispronouncing their freaking name. The other teams featured in the tournament are Boston University, St. Cloud State, Harvard, or I should be Harvard, Penn State, Harvard, Penn State, Ohio State. See, I didn't do it that time. Michigan Tech, Minnesota State, Western Michigan, Cornell, Merrimack, Colgate, and Kinesis? How do you say this one?
I have no idea.
Well, moving on. 16-team field.
Hold on. Let me ask you, of those 16 teams, who are you rooting for?
Oh, I'm going for Quinnipiac because I can't pronounce their name. Although I feel like I'm doing it now that we sounded it out in the notes. I'm going, you know what? Because my buddy went there and he's getting married this summer, Cornell.
You're going with Cornell. Okay.
I'm going with Cornell. My buddy's getting married this summer. He went to Cornell. I'm going Cornell. That's my favorite. The 16-team field will compete in regional play this Thursday and Friday, with the regional finals to be played on Saturday and Sunday. The Frozen Four will be at Amalie Arena in Tampa, with the national semifinals on April 6th and the national championship on April 8th. Every game of the tournament will be available on either ESPNU, which I still don't know who has that, ESPN News, isn't ESPN just news anyways, or ESPN2, and will be available to stream on the ESPN app. Wait, I have that. Can I watch it? If I have ESPN Plus?
You got ESPN Plus. And thanks for that login there, Coach.
You're going to get me in trouble with Disney, man. Calm down. Better edit that out. The Premier Hockey Federation Isabel Cup Championship matchup is set. The Toronto Six will be up against the Minnesota Whitecaps on Sunday, March 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on ESPN2 at Mullet Arena. I still think it's funny, that name. On the campus of Arizona State University in Tempe, Arizona. On Monday night in Game 3 of the playoff semifinal series, Toronto beat the Connecticut Whale in a 3-0 shutout victory. Minnesota eliminated the two-time defending champion Boston Pride on Saturday night.
If I remember correctly, the Boston Pride were the Isabel Cup champions of last year. So big win for Minnesota to knock out the defending champs.
You got to say it right, Minnesota.
Minnesota, don't you know?
I can't. You do that so much better than I do. In USA Hockey news, they announced that David Quinn, the head coach of the San Jose Sharks, he's been named head coach of the 2023 U.S. men's national team for the upcoming IIHF Men's World Championship in Tampere, Finland, and Riga, Latvia this May. And finally, the IIHF announced that Russia and Belarus have been banned from all events next year. That's the news from the past week in the NHL and beyond.
All right, Coach Dan, well, is that the show?
That's it, buddy. Let's wrap it up. I got to go have dinner.
All right, well, if you'd like to continue the conversation with Coach Dan or I, please follow us over on Twitter. You can follow me at Brando Cash. Tell me who I should be rooting for the Frozen Four. I'm not a big college hockey guy, but I'm going to check out the Frozen Four this season. I have a friend that works at Boston University, so I'll be cheering on the Terriers. Go Terriers. So, let me know. What other games should I be really tuning into? And maybe watch some of those Caps prospect games as well. So you can follow me on Twitter at Brando Cash. Coach Dan, where can people tweet to you at?
You can find me on Twitter at WTP Coach Dan, talking Capitals related stuff, including how they and how they don't play well at all. You can also find me on there talking about Arsenal Football Club, top of the table. Hopefully keep that up.
I'll be talking about Wales.
No, he's going to be talking about the animal, not football, because he doesn't watch it. Anyways, you can also find other kinds of football. You can talk me talking about the Bills, the Commanders with a pending sale. Sounds like any minute now we're going to be hearing, or day or week or month or something along those lines. We'll be hearing about it. Apparently some other dude, a Canadian guy, just jumped into the mix of wanting to buy the team. I don't care as long as it's not Dan Snyder. But it looks like Josh Harris is going to be the guy. Magic Johnson is now a part of the Josh Harris bid, as well as some other people. You know what? I love the idea of a local guy because maybe he'll change the team and put the colors back and the jerseys back to what they used to be, because those were great. Team name was just, a little racist, and they had a D-bag for an owner. But that's finding me on Twitter at WTP Coach Dan. But hey, if you've enjoyed the show, go ahead and check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/whatthepuckpod. It's where we'll post when new shows are coming out, as well as all sorts of other things related to the Washington Capitals, Hershey Bears, South Carolina Stingrays, the Hershey Cubs, and other things related to the National Hockey League or things that Brandon finds funny. That's facebook.com/whatthepuckpod. But Brandon, moments ago, I was talking about the Bills, the Commanders. You were talking about football, though not the kind you use your hands for, unless you're a goalie. But if someone happens to be a fan of a certain purple-clad team based out of Baltimore, is there a podcast they should listen to?
That's right. You can check out my Baltimore Ravens podcast called The Call. That's right. We cover all things Baltimore Ravens. If you listen to last week's show of The Call, it actually, I to be honest, I feel as if it was my personal best interview I've ever conducted. We had two Baltimore Ravens playmakers on the show talking about the Playmakers program that has been retired. It is no longer happening. Unfortunately, I was a big fan of the Playmakers, and we talked to two of them about what their experience was representing the team. So check out my Baltimore Ravens podcast called The Call. And if you'd like to send me other football jerseys like one of our fans did from overseas, I will take them. So please let us know you're a fan of The Call or What the Puck. Now, we do this show for free. You listen, stream, and download for free on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Player.fm, Overcast, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. All we ask in return is for you to please spread the word about the show. Write us an Apple Podcast review, rate us over on Spotify, and let people know on Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and Pinterest and Instagram and Reddit and Snapchat and Twitch and TikTok and Discord and Hive, anywhere you're social on the web. I saw, what's his name? Zack Snyder still uses Vero. Tell people over on Vero that we're a podcast they should listen to. I quit Vero, so I don't know if anybody else.
I don't know what that is.
It's apparently the only thing Zack Snyder likes to use, so I don't know. But let everybody know, I'm a Washington Capitals fan. I listen to What the Puck, and you should too. So let's go over the games until we talk again. Coach Dan and I are still trying to figure out our schedules for next week, so I'm just going to give you the next 4 games. I don't know when we're going to come back and do a show, but we shall see. On Thursday, March 23rd, the Capitals are in D.C. up against the Blackhawks. That game is on NBC Sports Washington, and it starts at 7 o'clock. Then the Caps travel to Pittsburgh and go up against those pesky Penguins on March 25th on Saturday night in Pittsburgh against the Penguins. 8 o'clock start. You can watch that one on ESPN Plus or on ABC Broadcast TV. And then on Wednesday, March 29th, the Capitals are up against the Islanders. That game is in D.C. It's Wednesday night, rivalry night. The game starts at 7:30, and you can watch that nationally on TNT. And then on Thursday, the Capitals travel down to Florida up against the Tampa Bay Lightning. You can watch that game on NBC Sports Washington locally, and it starts at 7 o'clock. All right, Coach Dan. Well, will we see back-to-back games? Our number one goaltender, he is out right now with an injury. Will we see Charlie Lindgren in both of these games, or will we see the backup from Hershey for one of them?
We've not actually seen this in terms of the possibility of Kemper. Is Kemper going to be back in time?
I don't know.
I think if I'm the Caps, and let's say Kemper's back for one of these, I would have him in Tampa because you give him that extra day to rest and continue his rehabilitation. So I think if he's ready, then yeah. Otherwise, I think you do play Lindgren in both.
You don't see Fucale at all?
All right, so if he's not, yeah, maybe. Against the Islanders, maybe you see... Well, I think part of it plays in terms of how they do against Chicago and Pittsburgh, because if they lose both of those games and it looks like there's just no chance of them making the playoffs, they've fallen further away, then yes, I think we definitely could see... And Kemper's not ready, we could see Zach Fucale. If they win both those games or one of them and they're still like right in the hunt, especially if they beat Pittsburgh, then I could see Lindgren playing both if Kemper's not ready.
Why did we see Foucault during the COVID year? Did both of them have COVID, or was one
Everybody was... He played for a while. Everybody was injured.
So both goaltenders were injured.
Injured and COVID, or COVID and COVID, or...
Okay. I couldn't remember. I know it was a big ordeal to get his family there to see his first NHL game because they had to cross, state lines, or I think were they based in Canada and they had to come to the U.S. I don't remember, but it was a big deal to get that family there to see his first NHL game. But anyway, that's it for What the Puck this week. Everybody say it loud, say it proud. Let's go, Caps.
This has been a production of Brando Cash Entertainment. Music by DJ Wolfman, voiceover by Sarah Jacks. For more information, go to brandocash.com.